Eddie Martin was a young Monrovian who was the sole support of his invalid parents. He worked as a delivery boy for the hardware firm of Johnson and Parker on Ivy Avenue, across the street from where Monrovia City Hall is located today. In December of 1887, he was sent out on an errand to make a delivery. It was a stormy day and he got wet. It rained during that time. So when he returned, he decided to stand by a recently lighted stove so the heat from the stove would dry his clothing. He had been there just a very few minutes when there was a horrific explosion. The stove itself exploded. Fragments went flying all over the room. But Eddie, who was standing next to it, bore the brunt of the explosion. The newspaper editor described him as being severely lacerated with the flesh torn from his limbs, is what it said. He apparently was able to drag himself into the back room. A doctor was summoned, maybe one or two doctors. Anyway, when they examined him, they realized there was no treatment, and he died a short time later. The bookkeeper.
Where was this?
In the store itself.
What store?
Oh, Johnson and Parker's hardware store. The bookkeeper was injured as well, but it was a wound to her forehead, nothing serious, but yeah. So the big question was, why would a stove that had only recently been lighted have exploded? There probably would not have been enough time for explosive gas to have been generated to the degree that it would cause the explosion. Then a miner came into the store. He'd been prospecting in the mountains above Monrovia, and he asked Johnson and Parker if the dynamite caps he had ordered had been received. And they got to checking and realized that both the stove and the dynamite caps had been shipped from the same supply company in Los Angeles, and that they had placed the dynamite caps inside the stove without properly notifying Johnson and Parker that that's where they were. The city attorney was engaged by Eddie's parents to file a lawsuit, and the hardware store settled for $2,500 for wrongful death damages. Eddie's buried at Live Oak Cemetery, one of the first ones to be buried there, in the old section, the eastern edge.
What year would this have been? $2,500 is quite a...
Well, you could probably,
jump.
Dick Singer could do the conversion and tell you how much it is now.
27 times.
Is that what it is?
From 1887 to now.
27 times. Okay, well, you could do the math. So since he was their sole means of support, that left them destitute, and that's why they filed the suit. And given 27 times 2,500, that probably was enough to take care of them for the rest of their days, or at least help.
Well, that was the cost of a fairly fancy house in those days.
2,500 would have been a upper medium range house.
And this was what year?
1887.